Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Right. What is going on, everybody? How we doing today? As usual, hope we're doing well. It is a Wednesday night, and we're doing our thing. Please let me know if my microphone is all fucked up. It got moved, and because of that, it might be like doing that every time I speak. That's been happening quite a bit lately. I fixed it last stream, but yeah, it's one of those percussive maintenance things where it's not a software issue, it's a hardware issue. So I don't know if it's like fucked or not, But what is going on, OP? What is going on, Tomifer, Joe Rogers, Braxton Vestal? What is going on, Just James? How you all doing today? Good luck with the stream, brother. Says Braxton Vestal. Thank you very much, sir. Good luck with whatever you're up to today. I appreciate the well wishes. Oh man, I'm a little upset today because I didn't get to work out today. I woke up with a headache. I had a headache all throughout work. And I do physical labor for work. So I got home. I have like an hour to nap before I got to go to the gym. I got like an hour nap before I got to go to the gym, and I slept it off, thank God. But like, I couldn't work out. I could only teach, and that was it. Even the amount of sweat, because like like it's hot in the gym. I'm wearing this, and I'm showing like, all right, so this is how you do a jab, across, and a hook, and all this other stuff. So like, you actually kind of work up a bit of a sweat. It's not like a crazy workout, but you perspire. You perspire and I was like nervous that I was gonna get a headache, but I couldn't work out today, so that's annoying. Um, but yeah, we're gonna keep on keeping on. What is going on, Natalia? What is going on, Smart Moron? Who's the most CTE riddled fighter ever? Ooh, that's a tough one because there's quite a few of them. Um, people think they know what CTE is and what it looks like and stuff like that, but like you know when somebody's got CTE, you know when somebody's a little bit messed up, and typically that kind of thing isn't going to show completely and totally until like years after they're even retired, so you won't even see it. um you might see some of the beginning pieces of it, I guess you could say, but you're not going to see it because like after people retire, nobody cares about them anymore, and because of that, they're people are just going to move on. Is what's going to happen. Natalia says BJ Penn. Yeah, maybe. I think BJ Penn probably just has a mood disorder, which is made up, by the way. It's a made up thing, but I'm going to explain to you all about that today. Funny enough, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Chris Benoit is the CTE king. Yes, sir. Nobody's taking that title. Nobody's taking that crown. Scott working the fields for his master. Day is never finished. Massa got me working. Someday Massa set me free. Yes, sir. Oh, I almost read out my own. I almost read out my own chat. I almost read out the chat that I put on the YouTube thing. Oh no, it's not just YouTube. It's also on the Twitch too. I wrote a buy me a new penis and then the Streamlabs link. But we have a little fun here. We have a little fun. We like to play around. But um, hope we're all doing all right tonight. I got to be honest with you. This is one of those times where I have an idea for something and I didn't a million percent plan it or anything like that, so I don't know exactly how it's gonna go. But the plan that I have right now is to look into Mayo Clinic, all right? And as you can see, there's a bunch of different things here. We're going to be talking about different personality disorders and stuff like that, or not just personality disorders, but different mental illnesses and stuff like that, because I want to try and explain to you guys why I have the thoughts that I do on the mental illness field, not just the mental illness field, but the psychology field, the psychological field. A lot of people don't seem to understand it, and it's something that I feel I probably could explain if I just took a look at a bunch of these different things and told you guys, like, look, like, if you compare this to this, you kind of notice something there. But if you if you've known a borderline personality disorder before, you know that's not made up. Scott reviews the Mayo Clinic. Yes. What's your opinion on the validity of autism? We're gonna talk about that one. We're gonna talk about that one. But yeah, the algorithm here's the thing, right? Obviously there's something. There is something there. I'm not saying that somebody with BPD is like completely and totally faking it or anything like that, right? Because at the end of the day, these are people who have real experiences, they have real feelings, and they are doing real things, right? So empirically, you know that there is something wrong with them. You know that something is up, okay? However, if I'm being completely and totally honest with you, I just don't think BPD is what people think it is. I think that the concept of BPD was made up to describe somebody who has no control over themselves in any way, shape, or form, right? And there's more to it than that, but I don't want to get too deep into anything in particular right now. I'm actually funny enough, BPD is going to be the first one that we take a look at, right? Um, oh, sorry, I was just checking something out, but so um, so we have an overview of borderline personality disorder. Okay. Before I even begin, I want to say that I think the psychological field is a quack field. I think that it is at best a soft science, and because of that, it is rife for manipulation and things like that. But at worst, it is completely and totally made up to describe things that normal people experience, that if they have a regular or a healthy enough childhood and young adult period, they will grow out of it. But a lot of people don't, because the psychological field puts them in this weird feedback loop where they do something fucked up, and when somebody gets pissed at them, instead of thinking, oh, like that was fucked up, I shouldn't do something like that again, they just think, oh, I have BPD, so that means it wasn't my fault, right? um it's one of those situations where a person comes along and they make up a problem, and then they are the solution to that problem. It is rent seeking behavior is a word that it's a commie word, but I think it's a really really good word. It's not just a word, but you understand what I mean. It's a phrase or a concept, right? Rent seeking behavior. Basically, when you're trying to make money off of something that doesn't actually add any value to anything. Like for instance, kids in New York City, they used to have trash all over the ground, and they would pay people, or not, excuse me, they wouldn't pay people. People would pay them to sweep the trash out of the way so that people could walk through without there being a ton of trash on like the bottom of their pants and stuff like that. And then they would immediately sweep the trash back into the place that they just swept a path out of, so that the next person who comes along, they have to give them another however much money they were charging, right? Or another example, that like a toll on a river or something like that. That I probably should have led with that one, but the trash sweepers in cities way back in the day, that was something that tickled me a little bit. It tickled me, so I led with that one. But I believe that the psychological field is rent seeking behavior a lot of the time, where somebody will come and they will observe somebody who is in a very vulnerable state for one reason or another, and they will try their best to find a problem that either exists or does not exist so that they can monetize the treatment of that problem. You know, it's much in the way that people will talk about cancer and stuff like that. Everybody's hip to the whole cancer grift, right? Oh, dude, they aren't making a, they aren't making a cure for cancer because it's better to treat it. It's better to treat it than to cure it. If you cure it, well then there's no more money to be made in the treatment, man. It's better to bill somebody all along the way for a bunch of chemotherapy that might not even work, and all these other drugs and other things like that. Like, if you say that to someone, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, totally, I believe that." You'll have some fucking idiot who's like, "Dude, they don't want a cure for cancer, man. If you found a cure for cancer, you'd suddenly disappear. You'd get a bullet in the back of your head, and they'd say it was suicide, dude." Like, when you explain that to somebody, everyone's like, "Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, plausible. Sounds about right." Because that's that typical like midwit sort of, it's the corporations, man, kind of thing. But if there's one thing that the midwits, especially the left wing midwits, have really latched onto, it is the concept of therapy and the concept of the concept of um like there being disorders and things like that for people who they just like didn't get enough attention when they were a kid, and instead of growing up and becoming a man, being a man about it, or just being an adult about it, a grown up, they're still like making decisions based off of that thing that happened when they were fucking 9, you know. Excuse me. Have you seen the video where they ask psychiatrists how many people they have oh, have you seen the video where they ask a psychiatrist how many people have you cured? It says MilkHunter69 watching on X.com, on X.com. No, I have not, but I can only imagine the discomfort that immediately washed over that person, swept over them like a fucking wave. I can only imagine that, because at the end of the day, it's not about curing someone. It's about making money off of somebody. You know, psychiatrists, psychologists are kind of in the same boat to a certain degree, but psychologists are more of what you would expect from just like a therapist. You know, you go and you sit down and you tell somebody their your problems, and I have a little bit more faith in those people, just a little bit more, but not a lot. And the reason why is because the therapy is supposed to be the like they can only sit down and talk to you. They're not allowed to prescribe pills. They do not have that ability. So it's a situation where you might actually have an altruistic person sitting across from you who is like, look, here's the thing. Like, for instance, there was one psychologist in my life that I actually trusted. It was this old Jewish dude, really nice guy. I won't say his name, even though he's probably dead by now, honestly. You know, shame, but probably. Um, and he told me the type of shit that like right wing Twitter talks about now to try and get your life together. He was like, literally, I remember it was summertime, my junior year going into my senior year, and he knew that I needed something to do. So as soon as I sat down, he was like, so it's summertime. What are you going to do to stay busy? And at the time, I was like, why does this fucking guy not want me to relax? And it's like, I was too stupid, right? I was too stupid at the time to realize that this guy was giving me the best advice that he could have given me, or anyone for that matter, was just stay busy. If you're busy working a job or working out or having a hobby, a pursuit that you're going to get better at, if you're being generative, you're too busy to be fucking sad. You're too busy to be upset. You're too busy to be at home arguing with your fucking parents about shit. You know, but of course I was like a 16 or 17-year-old kid at the time, so I wasn't going to take the advice, right? But like, even when it comes to psychologists, it's so rare that you see one that is worth his salt. It is so rare that you get someone who is not just constantly trying to gaslight you in a way that is going to keep you quote unquote sick, so that you'll keep going back to them for bad life advice, you know? Oi, oi, vey, Scott. You got to keep busy. If you keep busy, you won't be thinking about Israel and how uh we're taking your tax money. Fucking I know someone who was raped by one though, so there's that. Whoa, that sucks. Milk Hunter 69 sounds really smart, says Heath Holloway. I believe he is probably the smartest Twitter watcher that we have here. Um, yeah, you're right. The field of psychology can totally be exploitative. And it's not just that it can be, it's that it is, if you want to make money off of repeat customers. So you end up in a situation where you have an incentive to give somebody bad advice, or to claim that there's something wrong with them that is not actually true, so that they will keep coming back to you. You know, in addition to that, there's also situations where the person's biases just can't help but come through. Like, for instance, there was two girls in my life that I thought I was going to marry. One of them is my wife now. The other one is a woman that I dated for about 5 years, and she was just a fucking loser and a freak and a weirdo, you know? So naturally, I dated her for half a decade. But, um, like there was a situation. I'm trying to find a way to explain it. Basically, I didn't trust her because she did something, right? I was trying to work to rebuild that trust, but part of that trust rebuilding process was that I wanted to know where she was at. Not in a weird, clingy, abusive way, but just let me know when you're leaving the house. Be like, hey, I'm gonna go here. And just let me know when you get there. And then let me know when you're heading home. And let me know when you get home. That's it. None of that weird, like, take a picture of yourself holding up two fingers right now. Show me that you're there. Get on FaceTime and show me that you're there alone. Like nothing like that. I just want to know, hey, where are you at? You kind of broke my trust. I don't have that trust for you anymore, but I want to work through it. Where are you at? I ended up telling her because there was a situation where she went to a doctor's appointment, and a doctor's appointment is usually between like 15 minutes and an hour. Usually it's closer to 15 minutes because the doctors want to get you in and out. That's another topic, is that the actual medical field. But it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours later, and she hadn't let me know what's going on. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I get a little bit upset at her. I'm like, what the fuck is up? Where are you? What are you doing right now? What is your problem not informing me of where you're at? And fucking we end up talking to the what's her face? You know, we end up talking to the psychologist that we were going to therapy with, because that's what we did. I forget if I prefaced this story with that, right? But I went to couples counseling with the girl that I thought I was going to marry years ago. And this counselor is like, she's chill, she's acting like everything's all good, she's on nobody's side and all this other stuff. And she just immediately starts jumping down my throat. She isn't interested in why I wanted to know where my girlfriend was at or anything like that. She wasn't interested in understanding how I felt and why I felt it was necessary to be aware of where my girl happened to be at any given time. It was just trying to gaslight me into making it seem like it was a thing where it was like, all right, where are you? 5 minutes later. Are you still there? 5 minutes later. Are you still there? When are you going home? Are you still there? No. And that's a big thing that a lot of these people will do, is they get into psychology or psychiatry because they're not trying to fix other people, they're trying to fix themselves. And when they are confronted with that thing about themselves or about something that happened to them or something like that, that is even close to reminiscent of what is in front of them right now, right? Meaning like that woman, I guarantee you, she went through a phase in her life where she was dating like a guy who was like actually abusive, like actually a piece of shit. When she was confronted with that, she immediately went back to, oh well, that ex-boyfriend of mine was an asshole, so I bet this guy's an asshole too. When the reality is, that's just what's going to happen sometimes. Is if somebody's going to break your trust like that and you don't leave them, there's going to be a rocky place where you're like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Who's that on your phone? Who are you talking to right now? Who's that? Who's that? Like, that's the kind of thing that's going to happen. But that woman couldn't understand that because she's bad at her job, because again, there's a bias that she cannot get through. And because of that, we stopped going. Fucking, I'm not going to sit there and allow anybody to try and convince me that I'm the bad guy when I'm the victim. And that's the kind of thing that happens in a lot of these cases, is somebody gets victim blamed, and it's usually the guy. Because a lot of these psychiatrists and again psychologists, you know, a lot of these psych field workers, I guess I'll call them, are women, and they're women who have issues with men. That's just the way that it is. And even if you're a guy, there's a good chance that you have a gynocentric view, because that's what's taught in college. That's what's taught at a university, you know? Everybody's talking about Jews now. Not even in like an anti-Semitic way. They're just like, oh, dude, old Jews are the best. I'm not a big fan of younger Jews. It's like, what the hell? Anyway, How do you feel about Alex Jones dogging out Owen? I don't know what's going on with that. I just know that Owen Schroyer apparently left InfoWars after like a decade or something like that. I forget exactly, what was going on with that. I'm sorry you got victim blamed, Scott. That's inappropriate. She sounds underqualified. Yeah, just unqualified, I'd say. If you're gonna become a psychiatrist or a psychologist and you're gonna react like that, it's not just an underqualification. You are unqualified. You should be stripped of whatever anything you have that says that you should be allowed to do what you're doing. You know, um, and it's just the classic thing. It's the classic thing. You know, um, what was I gonna say? And it was like it wasn't like a calm, like she went from calm, like this is how she would talk. She'd be like, "So, how are we doing today?" In that like very like low tone, almost like ASMR psychologist speak, in that tone of voice, like, "So, how are we doing today? How did the last week go? How was work for the both of you? Is everything going okay?" She went from that to, why would you do that? But I mean, don't you think that's a little bit like possessive? That's really not okay. I don't think that's okay. You shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. Like she went from like nice and neutral and like calm and almost relaxing. It was almost relaxing to listen to her speak. And that's on purpose, right? They're trying to lull you into a false sense of security so that you'll spill things they can fucking gaslight you about. She went from that to like aggressive, like fucking, why would you do that? What was the point of that? But don't she should be able to go to the doctor without having to deal with you hitting her up all the time and blah 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 blah. And it's like, I just wanted her to tell me that there was a fucking issue at the doctor's office, because that's what happened, right? I didn't expect to be telling a story like this, and I always want to be very careful when I tell a story like this because for one thing, I don't want to give away too many details in the first place, just in case. I don't want to accidentally like say my ex's name or something like that. But then in addition to that, it's like whenever you're like, it is always a losing battle. It is always a losing thing when you're a man talking about having any kind of standards or any kind of like um deal breakers or non-negotiables or boundaries or anything like that. That was a boundary of mine, was like, look, you betrayed my trust, you did something that was unacceptable, and I do not have that, like, I don't trust you anymore. That trust has been broken. We can work through this and maybe one day I'll trust you again, but for now, I got to be honest with you. I'm constantly going to be thinking, where's she at? Where's she at? Where's she at? What's she doing? Where's she at? Who's she talking to? What's she doing? And I'm not going to turn into a monster, but you also got to work with me here. And that means you got to tell me what the fuck is going on when it's going on. That means if you go to the doctor, you say, "Hey, I'm going to be going to the doctor. I'll let you know when I get there." Okay, cool. "Hey, I'm at the doctor." Okay, cool. "Hey, the doctor is being fucking dumb. Like, I'm still here." Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Um, how did she betray your trust, and did it impact your later relationships? I mean, it wasn't like cheating necessarily, but like there was an ex that when we got together, she was like talking to and stuff like that still, and that ex caused problems. And she told me like, "Oh no, this is like it was just lies. It was just lies is really what it was. Honestly, that's really all it was just fucking lie after lie after lie, and because of that I had to deal with some stupid drama bullshit that got really fucking annoying. And yeah, it was just fucking like it was just dumb. And I mean, like, yeah, it impacted my later relationships. Of course it did. Like every relationship you have with anybody, and I don't just mean romantic, I mean platonic as well. Every relationship you have with anybody, no matter who it is always going to affect your relationships later on. Every relationship is a learning experience, and you can either learn a good thing or a bad thing. And I don't know if I learned a good thing or a bad thing, but I learned not to trust women with their word, to not take a woman's word for it. to just assume that she's lying. And I mean, it hasn't hurt me. In fact, the only time it's hurt me is when I'm like, nah, I'm sure this one's different. So, you know. Oh, damn, Streamies got busted. Yeah, fuck those guys. They sucked. like all they had to do was just stream their shit, but instead they had to have their Twitter account where they were talking about left-wing bullshit. So, you know, fuck them. Is this the ex who has a trans partner? Nah, I don't feel like getting too deep into the ex and shit like that. She's an idiot. She's a fucking moron, you know? I'll let her be a moron. But yeah, anyway, so we have here borderline personality disorder, okay? Borderline personality disorder. So we're going to read the overview. Borderline personality disorder is a mental health condition that affects the way people feel about themselves and others, making it hard to function in everyday life. It includes a pattern of unstable, intense relationships, as well as impulsiveness and an unhealthy way of seeing themselves. Impulsiveness involves having extreme emotions and acting or doing things without thinking about them first. People with borderline personality disorder have a strong fear of abandonment or being left alone. Even though they want to have loving and lasting relationships, the fear of being abandoned often leads to mood swings and anger. It also leads to impulsiveness and self-injury that may push others away. Borderline personality disorder usually begins by early adulthood. The condition is most serious in young adulthood. Mood swings, anger, and impulsiveness often get better with age, but the main issue of self-image and fear of being abandoned as well as relationship issues go on. If you have borderline personality disorder, know that many people with this condition get better with treatment. They can learn to live stabler, more fulfilling lives. So right here, it's like, right here, right? This is a lot different from a lot of the, or at least my understanding of a lot of the other mental disorders and things like that, where, my whole life I heard that depression is non-curable, that bipolar is non-curable, that ADD, ADHD is non-curable, and things like that. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting that these things are apparently, or specifically BPD, is curable. Now, damn it. Oh no, wait, no. Okay. So, Hinduism is bullshit, but if there's one thing that is true about a lot of different religions is that they have a very good understanding of gender dynamics. They understand that men are masculine and are naturally leaders. Women are not so much that, right? And the reason why I pull up this out of nowhere, I know it seems really, really strange, really random, is because the goddess Kali, right? Kali, also called Kalika, is a major goddess in Hinduism, primarily associated with time, death, and destruction. Kali is also connected with transcendental knowledge and is the first of 10 Mahavidyas, a group of goddesses who provide liberating knowledge. Of the numerous Hindu goddesses, Kali is held as the most famous. She is the preeminent deity in the Hindu Tantric and the Kalikula worship traditions and is a central figure in the goddess-centric sects of Hinduism, as well as Shaivism. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. Kali is chiefly worshipped as the divine mother of the universe and divine feminine energy. This is what I was trying to get to, right? Now, I was hoping that it would say something about it here in that first paragraph, and I don't feel like having to read through the entirety of this thing, right? But part of the legend, part of the mythology of Hinduism, right, is that Kali is where the name Kali Yuga gets, right? The word Kali Yuga, or the concept of the Kali Yuga, is based off of the goddess Kali, right? And the idea is that it is a time where we have gotten so far away from God. It is a time of chaos. It is a time of destruction. It is a time of Bad things, if we're being honest here, bad things. And what ends up having to happen is if I'm remembering it correctly, it is the male god or the male gods. They kind of have to take back control from Kali, right? This is how the cycles of the yugas work from the standpoint of like a Western man who thinks it's all bullshit in the first place for the most part. But the reason why I'm saying this, the reason why I'm explaining this is because it is a prime example of the understanding of women. They are chaotic, they are emotional, they rule via intuition as opposed to wisdom or knowledge or understanding or anything like that, right? It is understood that this is the way that women are. It is understood that they are impulsive. It is understood that they are unstable. It is understand that they are intense. It's understood that they can oftentimes have an unhealthy way of seeing themselves. Sound familiar? Sound fucking familiar? That's exactly what this is. That's exactly what borderline personality disorder is. All BPD is, and I've been saying this for years. I've seen people say it here and there from time to time, right? On like Twitter, and it'll blow up or something like that. I've been saying this for years. BPD is just what happens when a woman does not get told to shut up enough. That's literally all that it is. That is it. When a woman grows up and she is instilled with a sense of entitlement that is never checked, that is never made into a more realistic understanding of herself and her place in the world and how things work and all that other stuff, they end up with borderline personality disorder. Not because BPD is real, but that's just a psychological understanding. The psychological field, the psychology field, the psych field. I'm just going to keep further breaking it down until I call it the P field or something. But that's just the psych field's understanding of the pathological spoiledness that a woman will end up with in today's world, because a lot of women are not told no enough. It's just it's a fact. It's a fucking fact. That's just the way it is, you know? And if you have ever tried to tell a girl, hey, that's not a good idea, and they burn you, it's not BPD. It's because they've just never been told no before. And now that you're telling them no, they're like, you know? Anyway, why is there no Chike representation in office? I don't know, but maybe one day our people, maybe one day our people will make it in there, Gordon. Clapping fetus on Twitter says borderline personality disorder is just a cope for being too weak to take control of your own life. Yes, but it's not just like people in general. It is specifically women. There's a reason why you don't see BPD guys. There's a reason why you and your boys don't have BPD. You and your boys probably have autism. Maybe not BPD, because that's a girl thing. All right, that's a girl thing. BPD is the vagina of mental disorders, is what it is. The dick and balls of mental disorders is autism spectrum disorder. Let's go ahead and take a look. Overview. Autism spectrum disorder is a condition related to brain development that affects how people see others and socialize with them. This causes problems in communication and getting along with others socially. The condition also includes limited and repeated patterns of behavior. The term spectrum in autism spectrum disorder refers to the wide range of symptoms and the severity of these symptoms. Autism spectrum disorder includes conditions that were once thought to be separate: autism, Asperger's syndrome, childhood disintegrative disorder, and a form of widespread developmental disorder that isn't specified. Oh, great. So they couldn't even be asked to be like, all right, so it's this and that and this and that and this and that. They were just like, Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch more shit in there. You know, we'll figure it out eventually. I guess. I don't know. I don't know, man. I got more important shit to do. Autism spectrum disorder begins in early childhood. Over time, it can cause difficulty functioning in society. For example, people with autism spectrum disorder may have problems being social, or when in uh pro may have problems being social, or when in school or at work. Apparently, a fucking autist wrote this. This reads like one of my tweets. Often, children show symptoms of autism within the first year of life. A small number of children with the condition appear to develop as expected in the first year. Then, between 18 and 24 months of age, they may lose some skills and develop autism symptoms. There is no cure for autism spectrum disorder, but getting treatment early during the preschool years can make a big difference in the lives of many children with the condition. Now, yeah. Um, nah, you know what? Fuck it. Oh no. I need a piece of paper here. I need a piece of paper, but I don't have one. Um, my brother showed symptoms of autism around 5, I think. I need a piece of paper for this one. I need a piece of paper. All right. You get my message?
No, I don't know where
Just come over here. All right. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's coming. It's coming. So, this right here, this right here is the IQ bell curve, ladies and gentlemen. As we know, the IQ bell curve right here. Here is the low end. Here's the high end. Now, how does somebody know somebody has autism? Well, is there like a test? Like, can you run brain scans on someone or anything like that? And if you can run brain scans and it will show something different, how many of these children get the brain scans done? How many of them get thrown in MRI machines or get like one of those, they get nodes put on their head or something like that? Not many. In fact, I would venture a guess to say pretty much zero, almost zero, if not. There is no actual legitimate medical evidence that autism truly does exist. What it is just the point of view of somebody who believes that they are normal, right? And the fact of the matter is there is a normal, okay? Normal is here. Average. Normal is average, okay? This is the average person right here in the middle of that big bell on the IQ spectrum. I think what autism actually is all the people here looking at the people here, and assuming because they operate on a different wavelength, there must be something wrong with them beyond the fact that they are just either lower or higher IQ. And what ends up happening is these things get lopped off. These right here, these two ends get lopped off, they get stuck together, and low IQ becomes low functioning, high IQ becomes high functioning, right? And what ends up happening with these people who are either on that low or high functioning end is they are pigeonholed into a situation where they are kind of expected to act a certain way and they are corralled into that behavior through one way or another, right? Now, somebody who is that high IQ, they may have a little bit of trouble connecting with somebody who is in that midwit range, in that middle of the bell curve range, because the way that they think about themselves and other people and life and all these other things, it puts them in a situation where it's like, it's like when you get the fluoride stare trying to tell somebody about what's going on in the world today, and they're just like, oh, yeah? Hey, you watch the Patriots? Literally, it is that kind of thing, but on an extreme degree, to an extreme degree, right? Where somebody's sitting here thinking about like them, and I'm not saying it's always like the best thing, right? It's like there was some Woody Allen thing where he's thinking about like the universe and stuff like that. And his mom's like, "You live in fucking Brooklyn. What do you care about the universe?" It's kind of a situation like that where there's a certain neuroticism that can sometimes come with these people who are on that higher end of the IQ, uh, um, that higher end of the IQ spectrum or bell curve or whatever you want to call it, right? But um, regardless, there is something so different about the way that they think, not because there's a disorder or anything like that, not because there's genuinely something wrong with them, but because they're just not thinking about the stuff that the average person is thinking about, right? And the same thing happens with the low IQ. Now, what I think happens a lot with the high IQ people is that because they are high IQ and because they're thinking about different things, it's harder for them to um, connect with somebody who is just thinking about, like, dude, the fucking Sox game tonight. I can't wait to get home and watch the Sox game. And because there are so many of those people and so few of that person who is thinking about more important things for the most part, these people who have that power of numbers, they assign a label to them. And it doesn't help as they get older because, I mean, they just end up becoming ostracized, and it's hard for them to blend in. But even if they can blend in, it's a little bit painful, right? So it just becomes a situation where you have somebody who ends up as like a shut-in or a neat or something like that, or maybe they do go on to do something really great, but they always have trouble with women or just maintaining friendships and things like that. Right now, the low end of the spectrum, right? The low end of the spectrum, this is the one where it's like, okay, some people might get a little bit offended. I don't want to offend anybody. It's like when I made a video for my Patreon specifically discussing this. I'm not trying to offend anybody by saying that the low functioning end of the IQ of the autism spectrum is just the low end of the IQ bell curve, right? I mean this in as like an objective way as I possibly can say it. I'm not trying to be like low functioning idiots, right? Um, what you see a lot of the time is there are certain behaviors that a low functioning person will pick up because they are enabled or allowed to be that way. At the end of the day, all of us are just trying to get what we want out of somebody or something. At the end of the day, that's all we're doing, right? That's why we're social animals, is because it's easier to survive if we're working together. So we learn, we understand strategies that can be utilized to to get what we want out of other people, right? We all learn growing up that if you walk into McDonald's and you say, "Hey, McBitch, give me a fucking Big Mac, pussy," you're probably not gonna get your Big Mac. You're probably gonna get kicked out, and if you're in a low income area, you're probably gonna get chased out by the workers and things like that. So we learn sometimes through trial and error, other times through just a we're taught, other times we just observe, right? But regardless, we learn how to deal with each other. We learn that throwing a tantrum, that saying mean things, saying hurtful things, gaslighting, and doing all this other weird stuff, it tends to not work very well. So we don't do it. But somebody who is low IQ, and because of that, they are diagnosed with low functioning autism. When somebody is diagnosed with that, what tends to happen is someone goes, "Oh, you mean my boy's special? Oh, man, okay, that's okay. I love him just the same." And that kid, because he doesn't have the emotional control, because his impulse control is low, because he can't voice himself, he can't use his voice the way that everybody else can. He's a little bit more given to throwing tantrums about things and doing other things that the average person would be like, "Wow, that's not cool." And when he does that, he's going to be given what he wants at least a little bit more often. So he learns. He learns that that is the way to get things and that it's okay for him to do that. And because of that, he just becomes more of that. And I've seen this kind of thing happen, and I've worked with children who are like that, and they get better under my tutelage. And do you know why they get better? Because I don't let them get away with that shit. But what ends up happening a lot of the time is they realize, oh, Coach Scott isn't going to put up with this shit. I can't fuck around the way that I do with mommy and daddy. They go home, they fuck around with mommy and daddy, and they only get better to a certain point. I've literally seen it where these kids, they're low IQ, but that doesn't mean they're like stupid necessarily, right? They know where their bread is buttered. They know how to get what they want. So because of that, when they're on the mat with me, they know they got to keep the tantrums to a minimum. But if they go to their parents, who sometimes they're just right off the mat, they can throw that tantrum and everything's all good. Everything's fine. Like I said, I've seen it happen before. And if you ever have to work with children, if you're in a situation where you feel like you can get away with it, just don't put up with the bullshit. Just be like, no, we're not doing that. You're not doing that. You're sitting down. Sit down now. Just talk to them like that. Doesn't have to be like, sit the fuck down. Like, doesn't even have to be that. Just be stern. Just be stern and unmoving, and don't let them try and bargain with you. You know? It's crazy how quick they get with the program, too. But one thing that I said, right, is that BPD is the vagina, is the vagine of personality disorders or mental illness and things like that. Autism. How many autistic women have you ever met in your life? Probably not many. Maybe like one, maybe two. How many autistic guys have you met in your life? How many guys walk around like, yeah, so I have autism spectrum disorder. Yeah, I have Asperger's. Yeah, I was diagnosed with this and that and this and that and this and that. How many? So many. And the reason why is because men are a little bit less agreeable, right? In addition to that, men tend to have higher IQs than women on average. Again, it's just an average, right? I don't know about lower IQs. I don't know if men and women are about equal, or if women are kind of bunched up in one area and, you know, most low IQs happen to be men and things like that. I'm not 100% sure about that. But regardless, I think that this is a situation where we live in a feminized world. Everything about us is meant to be over socialized. And because of that, if you are not given to that over socialization for whatever reason, but especially if it's because you have a high IQ and you're not constantly thinking about what they want you to think about, or you have a low IQ, so you cannot even 100% fathom what they want you to think about and what they want you to do and how they want you to act and things like that, well, then you are going to be labeled as autistic. That's just the way it is, you know? I had to do that with adult foreigners. Yeah, those guys. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Yo, what's going on, Dylan Hill? What's going on, Holy Clown? I don't know if you're still watching on the X on X.com. X. I don't know if you're still watching, but hello. Is it such a crime? Says Natalia. I'm not sure what the crime would be. My brother showed symptoms of autism around 5, I think, and I'm not having any discussion about whether or not he actually has autism. LMAO. I mean, it's tough because at the end of the day, just like with someone like who has BPD, there is something there. It's empirical. You can just look at it and you see it. There is something different about this person compared to the average. But just because there's something different about that person, I don't think that inherently implies, that there is some kind of disorder there. I think it could be a number of different things, including, this is another thing about autism and BPD that I didn't even really 100% bring up. It could be trauma. It could be some kind of trauma response. It could be a situation where this person doesn't really know how to act in a certain situation because when it came time to talk to a woman, when it comes time to talk to a woman, they're transported back to the time when they were 12, and they asked the girl out, and they say the worst she can do is say no, but turns out that was a lie. She like uh laughed and made fun of you to all of her friends or something like that. And I don't know, maybe she told one of her guy friends or even the guy she wants to date, like, you should beat him up. Like some kind of trauma response, you know? Um, I also don't like it because it takes out any semblance of difference, you know? You now have to be in here. Not just with IQ, but with literally everything. If you are not in here, well then there is something wrong with you and you should not be taken seriously. And that's the big gripe that I have, is that the mental illness racket, the psychological cartel, the psych cartel, big psych. But jokes aside, like the psych field and big pharma and things like that, they not only enable poor behavior, but they also demonize anything that is slightly deviating, anything that slightly deviates from what is considered to be acceptable in this sick, feminized, over socialized world, you know? So it puts you in a situation where either you are going to continue mistreating people because you have BPD, or when you open your mouth, everybody around you is like, well, yeah, that guy's got autism. We don't got to listen to him. Yeah, he's just a retard, is what he is. Anyway, dude, the Patriots, it's one of those situations, you know? Um, like I don't mean to like offend or anything like that, Zach. You know, and I'm not saying that like there's nothing up with your brother or anything like that. But what I'm saying is I think that what they are claiming is up with your brother and my cousin. I have a cousin who is low functioning, you know. He still kind of sort of has a bit of a hard time putting sentences together, and the kid's like 15 or 16 now, you know. I love him to death. He's a great kid, but I mean, you know, it just is what it is. Um, like again, it's not like a fucking he's just stupid. That's not what it is at all. You know. I think people conflate stupidity with low IQ, and while a lot of stupid people have low IQs, um, I don't think that means you're sitting here like, you know, it's not like you couldn't put two and two together to make four, you know. Um, and I mean, how many midwits do you know that are just like the fucking dumbest? Honestly, like how many people do you know that like um they measure intelligence off of like the dumbest fucking metrics, you know? Like, oh, everybody back in ancient Greece was stupid because they thought that lightning was Zeus throwing bolts at people. Idiots. And it's like the people that they're talking about at least knew how to farm. They were like artisans and other useful things. Meanwhile, the guy who thinks he's so much smarter than them today doesn't know how to fucking do anything. But because he knows that lightning is just an imbalance in the electrical charge or something like that in the atmosphere, and that's how it evens itself out. He thinks he's like he thinks he's fucking Einstein. He thinks he's Steven. He thinks he's Steven Einstein. He thinks he's Albert Hawking. He thinks he's Neil deGrasse Einstein. That's who he thinks he is. Um, I think autism in women is less noticeable because being a socially awkward man can make you creepy or weird, whilst being a socially awkward woman can be seen as quirky. Good point. Smart men have to fall in line or stand out. Psychologists only seem to look at outcomes instead of origins. Many of my and others' autistic traits are just the result of being ostracized at a younger age and thus not gaining the proper experience. Um, people people thousands of years old figured out Earth was round. Well, if you watched Sam's latest episode, the Sam Hyde show, you would know that it's not. No, but jokes aside, like, I think those are all really good points, Spunkled. You know, because here's the thing, right? When you're an intelligent guy, when you're a smart person, I was always rebelling against authority in some way, shape, or form, and that's because I always recognized like the stupidity of a lot of these people around me, and a lot of the time that like when I call it stupidity, at the time I thought it was stupidity, but like I don't think people are as dumb as I thought back then. I think people are smart enough. And I think that a lot of people will be aware of things, but they'll be like, whatever, I just want to be able to go home and play video games. So I'm just, whatever. Yeah, this is a dumb rule, but who cares? Whatever, you know? Oh, excuse me. You know? But like, I always, I was always aware of how like weird and like foolish everything is. I was always aware of the double standards and how men and women are treated. I was aware from an early age of the double standards with how white people are treated and things like that. I was always into history and mainly history. You know, I was always into that sort of thing, right? Um, and that made it really, really hard for me because I also would speak up at times that it was not a good idea to speak up at. So what would happen with me is I would single myself out foolishly, right? Um, and when I would get into an argument with a teacher over something stupid, like whether or not the Black Panthers were a black supremacist organization, um, which they were, it is provable. It has been proven they were a black supremacist organization. That's just the way that it was. Um, and wearing a like wearing Black Panther shit. Like I saw a dude wearing Black Panther shit in public one day, and I wanted to heckle him, but I had my wife with me, and that's kind of a rule of mine. Is like if the wife is with me, also certain friends, I'm not gonna start shit with somebody. I don't just start shit with people in general, but like to me, a Black Panther Party T-shirt, which is like it's 2024. What are you fucking doing? You fucking boomer idiot. But like that to me is the same as a swastika, right? Like the way people see a swastika, I see a Black Panther Party T-shirt, and I think, that guy would kill me if he had the chance. I should definitely tell him he's a fucking bitch. Fucking, but anyway, um, those kinds of arguments that you would get in with a teacher who's just like reading out of a fucking book and they don't actually know anything about the time period that they're talking about. Like I would get into those kinds of arguments with people, my teachers specifically, and they would report that to the guidance counselor, and then the guidance counselor would be like, we should get them tested and things like that. And sure enough, what is it? Well, it's just a checklist. It's just a checklist that anybody could fall into depending on the answer that they give. You know? I'm not offended. We all have our understandings of things. I like hearing other views. Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. They built Western civilization. What did you do? Eat a Cheeto? Excuse me. Exactly, Radical Rodney. But that is like, I think that is a big. I could see that. I could see that being a big thing. I also just I also gave Spunkled credit for what Smart Moron said. I apologize. Smart Moron said, I think autism in women is less noticeable because being a socially awkward man can make you creepy or weird, whilst being a socially awkward woman can be seen as quirky. And then Spunkled said, good point, Smart. Men have to fall in line or stand out. Yes, like I think that's a big piece of it too, if I'm being honest with you. I think that's a big piece of it too. But again, like when a woman stands out in that way, she's usually just assigned this, that in addition to that, men and women are just different overall. Like, you know, women are a lot more agreeable than men. Men have to be disagreeable. We can't be too agreeable because I mean, that's my issue is truthfully, I was too agreeable for my entire life. And because of that, I'm now in the situation that I'm in where I work two jobs, one of which I'm teaching people martial arts, but I'm getting fatter because I don't have any time to train myself. I don't have any time to go to anybody else's classes. I am the class. I'm teaching people shit, you know? Um, I'm being taken advantage of because of my agreeableness, right? And it's because like I can be very agreeable towards friends and family and things like that. I want to make my friends and family happy, but if you're not a friend or a family member and I feel like you're overstepping my boundaries, I will be very, very aggressive towards you. Not physically necessarily, but if it comes to that, yeah. But like being agreeable as a man is a death sentence because you are a pack mule. You are a mule. You are a beast of burden. And it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a guy or a girl. If you are too agreeable, if you're not willing to be like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I can't do that. No, no, it's not happening. No. If you're not willing to say no enough, you're just going to end up in a situation where your life force is being siphoned, and that's what's happening to me, you know. I talked a little bit about it before. I was with the owner of my gym from back when he couldn't afford a slice of pizza. I remember we were doing a construction job he needed some help on, and we went to get some lunch, and we couldn't even have lunch that day because I was a broke 19-year-old. I at least have an excuse. He was in his fucking like 40s and he couldn't buy a slice of pizza, you know? And this dude just bought a house. Meanwhile, what do I have? And I'm running his whole fucking operation for him, basically. You know, there's like me and like two other people. One person signs checks. That's all she wants to do, and I understand it completely and totally. There's somebody else who she sits at the counter and she's like, "Hey." There's one guy who teaches the classes that I don't want to teach. Fucking, and then there's me who I teach the lion's share of all the classes. You know. And that's why I'm so unhealthy. That's why I'm Mr. Fat MMA guy, is because I don't take enough time for myself because I'm too agreeable, you know? Um, but not to trauma dump on you guys or anything like that. I'm just, again, like, when I talk about myself, I want to make sure that I want you guys to understand where I went right or wrong, you know? And I think it's a lot easier to learn by watching where somebody went wrong, right? You guys aren't going to want, I mean, you guys are definitely not going to want to hear about the time I did the right thing, you know? And truthfully, like, you're only seeing me because I did the right thing enough times at the right time. That's the only reason why you guys are here, you know? Um, but like, my mistakes, I'm really big on. I don't want other people making my mistakes. I feel bad when I see people fall into the same hole that I just fell into. It's not fun. It's not fun. So you know that's why I'm explaining all this stuff. That's why I'm telling you this stuff. You know. Sage Necro says, "Power to the people. You can't just eat a Cheeto." Um, Scott teaching people how to harness their chi. Yeah, cheese nuts. Got him. Anyway, when you're a man who becomes agreeable, you become what iDubbbz has become. Pretty much, yes. iDubbbz, I have a feeling iDubbbz was probably prescribed medication that flipped his personality around. And somebody said that medication doesn't do that. I can tell you medication 1,000,000% does that. That's literally what the medication is for, is to change your personality. They call these personality disorders. It is a personality disorder. You know, your mood, for instance, your mood is part of your personality. How you voice certain moods is all a part of your personality, you know? So I think that iDubbbz probably got put on some kind of SSRI or something like that, and it made him into a bug. It made him into a fluoride brain. I think that's what happened with iDubbbz, truth be told. And it's very unfortunate. And I think it came from his wife manipulating him because I'll be honest with you guys. I used to give a shit about YouTube drama. every now and again, when I want like the sloppiest of slop content, I'll watch some kind of YouTube drama thing if it's somebody that I recognize and I'm like, oh, what's going on with them? Um, but I watched Brittany Venti, her video on Anissa back before anybody was talking about that. This is like fucking 2018, 2019. I was living in the rooming house when this came out, and it struck me as interesting because for one thing, I loved iDubbbz, right? Everybody loved iDubbbz back then, but she was in her Discord server talking about how she was going to leave iDubbbz and stuff like that. And it would not surprise me one bit if it was a situation where she was like, I'm going to leave you unless you go to therapy. And he goes to therapy, and the therapist is like, oh, you know what? I think you have independent male with standards and deal breakers and boundaries disorder. That's a problem. You can't have that. No, sir. Here, take these pills. Either that or I'll send you to a psychiatrist that can give you the pills. And here he is now, you know? I think that's probably what it was. Oh man. Baja Candle, what's going on? Says, thanks, Skog. Hey, no problem. It's hard for people to tell emotions without totally spilling at the seams or freaking out. Yeah, I mean, I try my best to like. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of trauma dumping a little bit on you guys, right? I am frustrated with the situation that I'm in, obviously, right? But I'm not doing it just to trauma dump. I have a wife for that. You know, every other day I'm talking to my wife about the new thing that got said or done or whatever, you know. I literally it happened today, baby. Didn't it happen today? Came home, yeah, I came home talking about like, oh, I talked to this person, talked to that person, they said this, I guess this is going on, blah blah blah. But like I'm not just trauma dumping on you guys. I'm trying to get you to understand like, hey, I made a mistake here. Don't make my mistake because you don't want to end up in the situation I'm in. I wake up every day since I went back to work, and maybe it'll get better, I don't know, but I wake up every day just kind of like dreading the day that I'm going to have, if I'm just being completely honest with you, you know. And I'm in a situation right now where, I mean, if it came down to it and something happened, it's like, whatever, you know, I'll just enjoy my life and I'll find other ways to make money. But because I'm planning on moving sometime in the next year, I just want to make as much money as I can so that I can take you know, a nice little chunk down with me so that it's easier to find apartments and maybe put that towards down payment on a house and you know, spend it on coke and hookers and other things like that. She just ignores me now. Anyway, but yeah, like it is what it is. I just don't want you guys to end up like me. I want everybody to do better than me. You know, I want the kids I teach to do better than me. You know, like I'm so glad the guys that I got into wrestling are going to college, and one of them's going to college as a wrestler, and he's really stoked to be a college wrestler. You know, this is a kid that I kind of look to as a bit of a little brother, and he definitely looks to me as an older brother. I can tell. He always looked up to me. I knew that, you know, so I wanted to try and be the best that I could for him, you know. Same thing with this other kid. There's some other dudes that I got onto the wrestling team. I told them when they did jujitsu for a couple of years, like, hey, you're going into high school, you should definitely do wrestling. And you know, I'm gonna go watch them this year too, even though I'm not as close with those kids. Um, you know, it feels good to know that I had a positive impact in that way, and I want to make sure that you know. And that's another thing, baby. Don't I always talk about like where I went wrong and the bad things that happened to me, and you know how I want to make sure that we don't do that same shit to our kids. Oh yeah, yeah, I know we do. Yeah, yeah. Um, I was trying to think of a joke to get on her nerves, but I couldn't. I couldn't think of one. Um, regardless, irregardless. Is that even a real word? Irregardless, whatever. I want people to do better than I do. You know, I want the best for everybody at the end of the day. Um, don't worry about trauma dumping. I love listening to you talk about shit. Well, I appreciate that, Radical Rodney. I don't know if you've been in the chat before, but thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. You know, thank you. I don't mind trauma dumping if I think it can help someone get out of their own head or help them in some way. Oh yeah. But just to say shit, nah, yeah. Like nobody wants to bitch. Like that's something I kind of feel bad about when I do trauma dump to my wife is like, she's heard this all before. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's so like, if I don't do it, I'm gonna explode. You know, if I'm just being honest about it. If I don't do it, I'm gonna fucking explode. You know. By the way, what's going on, WH? Did Scott have a mental break and his wife is gone and he's just talking to himself? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. iDubbbz gets given estrogen through an intravenous tube. Yeah, I'll bet it's a suppository. I'll bet it's an estrogen suppository. iDubbbz is the premier example of what not to do as a man. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to make fun of iDubbbz too much. I don't want to make fun of him at all because even though I haven't talked to Sam in a long time, you know, and my dealings with anyone from the MDE world has been pretty limited over the last year. I still feel that I'm a little bit too close to do that. Yeah, I just don't want to do that a ton. Plus, the other side of it is that like this is a man who is down, and you shouldn't kick people while they're down. You know, I think there's a difference between talking about why they're down and how they're gonna stay down if they keep doing this one thing. But like, you know, me making that joke about the estrogen suppository is like, all right, that's a little uncalled for. You know, it's funny, but it's uncalled for. Anyway, I've been in the chat before under a different name. I understand. I understand. You're not the first person who's changed their name recently. Somebody else changed their name, and you know, people doing name changes now. People doing name changes. Okay, so we're gonna go to mood disorders because apparently that encapsulates some of the other stuff that we have coming up. So mood disorders overview. Mood disorders, such as depression and bipolar disorder, affect people emotionally. If you have depression, you may constantly feel sad. You also may be anxious. Excuse me. If you have bipolar disorder, you will likely have extreme mood swings. Your feelings may range from being very sad, empty, or cranky to being very happy, going back and forth between each mood. Mood disorders are more common in women. Huh. What a surprise. You mean the sex that is classically understood to have a little bit less control over how they feel about things, including the including their hormones having to like cycle or something like that. They have periods. They bleed. They bleed once a month. Those are the people who are more likely to have mood disorders. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Let's do personality disorders apart from BPD. NPD is important to learn about. I'll check that out in a second. What's going on, Just James? Having a mood disorder may raise your risk of suicide. This risk is higher if the mood disorder is serious and you also have problems with alcohol or drugs. Okay. We know this bullshit. Nah. Types of mood disorders. Mood disorders are divided into two major groups: depressive disorders and bipolar disorders. Each group, so depression and bipolar disorder. Okay. Each group includes several different types. Depressive disorders, major depression, seasonal affective disorder, persistent depressive disorder, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, literally PMS. Depression related to a medical condition, depression related to substance or medicine use. Excuse me. So we'll go through each of these, right? Major depressive typically lasts for at least 2 weeks and often longer than 4 weeks. We'll talk about what I think major depression is in a minute, but occurs at certain times of the year, typically with a change of the season. Yeah, it usually occurs during the winter because you're not getting nearly as much sunlight as you used to. Vitamin D is a mood stabilizer, if you will. I'm not saying that is like officially one, but vitamin D affects your mood, you know. Persistent depressive disorder, a long-term form of depression that causes feelings of sadness, emptiness, and often hopelessness. So these two basically the same thing. It's just the amount of time. And like I said, I'm going to talk about depression in a minute, like just depression. Disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, a diagnosis used for children and teenagers. It features constant, serious, and lasting testiness with frequent temper outbursts that are not consistent with the age of the child. So it sounds like they're just spoiled. Sounds like they're just spoiled. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder features mood changes, hopelessness, and feelings of being overwhelmed or out of control. These symptoms occur in the 10 days before a menstrual period and go away within a few days after the period begins. Literally, just you're a woman who has a period. Holy fuck. Depression related to a medical condition features a great loss of pleasure in most or all activities due to the physical effects of another medical health problem. Yeah, that'll happen if you lose a limb and you can't be a mountain climber anymore because you lost a limb. You're probably going to be a little bit sad. You're probably going to be a little bit upset about that. I don't think that's a mood disorder. I think that's just the natural reaction that you're going to have to a change in your quality of life. When you're not allowed or not capable of doing the thing that you love doing, you're probably going to be a little bit upset. That's why I dread shit, is because I have to fucking do shit for other people and I can't do the shit that I want to do. It's like, fuck, man. Depression related to substance or medicine use features depression symptoms that start during or soon after using a street drug or medicine or after withdrawal from these substances. Sounds like addiction to me. I don't know. Sounds like addiction to me. But what is depression? What is just depression in general? So my theory, my hypothesis about depression, right? That Rat Garbage guy got given a UFC contract. Yeah, I saw that. That's really cool. He had a pretty good knockout. I'm excited. Well, there's a list of guys that I have to make that are like MDE fans, that like if I see them on a card, will stream for them. And Mandel is one of those dudes. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce his name, but like I said, I just know him as Rat Garbage because that's what he was on, Instagram. But what was I gonna say? Arnold Allen as well. We'll have to check out his stuff. There was one more. Peyton Talbot apparently is a fish tank guy, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, anyway. There's many more, a whole line chart across time to differentiate types. Just look up Livia Psychiatry on YouTube. It's okay to watch clips out of sequence. Well, maybe we'll do that in a second, Zach. I want to get through depression and bipolar and then ADD. So my idea of depression, right? And this is coming from somebody who has been depressed before, because I grew up to form maladaptive patterns due to external and internal issues, right? And those internal issues was that I was a little bit too attached to outcomes, and then my brain was also fucking scrambled by a bunch of different kinds of drugs and stuff like that, prescription drugs. My brain was scrambled eggs, and I had to unscramble it for the last 10 years of my life. Literally for the last 10 years of my life, I've just been unscrambling my fucking brain. But so if you were a spoiled child, you're going to grow up into a depressed adult. And the reason why is because you become so hardcore attached to outcomes that when you do not get what you want, whatever it happens to be, you're going to feel an extreme sadness. Now, this can be for a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons is that you learn as a spoiled child that when you show extreme emotion, you get what you want. Your parents give in to you, and they give you whatever it is that you were they give you whatever it is that you were complaining about. Right now, as you get older, people will be dealing with less of that shit. They will not be putting up with that shit, including even your parents. Your parents are going to put up with less and less of that as you get older and older. And you are also going to change in terms of the kind of tantrums that you will throw as well. And what will end up happening is when you want something and you don't get it, well, maybe you feel really, really sad. Maybe you have less energy. Maybe you have trouble sleeping. Maybe you have trouble concentrating, changes in appetite, and other things like that. Now, some of these I think come from your incredible focus on getting whatever it is that you want. And what ends up happening is you have learned that if you throw a big enough tantrum, you will get what you want. And if you don't get what you want after the tantrum, we'll just throw a bigger tantrum, throw another tantrum, throw an even bigger one later, then throw another one that's even bigger than that. Keep on going, keep on spiraling down, keep on turning into instead of away from the tantrum. I think that depressive disorders tend to be tantrums from not getting what you want. Other than, of course, the I have a vagina fucking depressive disorder, or the I can't do my favorite activity anymore disorder, right? And even that is kind of like attachment to outcomes, but this is a little bit more understandable. This one's a little bit more understandable. I think that what happens is as you don't get what you want, you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the depression, hoping that somebody is going to come along and be like, "Hey, here it is. Here's that thing you wanted." Whether it's literally a thing you wanted, or if it's like a girl that you asked out or something like that, or whatever it happens to be, right? And it's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's foolish, you know? It's just somebody who never learned to take no for an answer is really what it is, you know? And what you see from a lot of these people with these disorders is they'll hold it over somebody's head, you know? But bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorders. Bipolar disorders feature mood swings that include emotional highs called manic or hypomanic episodes and lows called depressive episodes. These highs and lows are usually continuous, but they can also change from high to low or low to high, or shift into a normal mood. Sometimes both the highs and lows might occur together. This is called a mixed episode. You could be easily distracted and have racing thoughts. Your sleep could also be affected. Why is... Oh, I see what it is. I think I see what it is. When I drag my mouse, there's like a weird resistance, and it's like bothering me. But anyway, types include bipolar 1 disorder. Features a constantly elevated mood that lasts for at least 1 week. This is called a manic episode. It affects your overall ability to function and makes it more likely that you'll take part in risky behavior. Bipolar 2 disorder features constantly elevated moods called hypomanias that last at least 4 days and less than 1 week. There may be risky behaviors, but usually hypomania does not greatly affect your ability to function. But other people should be able to notice that something is different about you. Cyclothymia, I believe is what it would be. Features shifts from emotional highs to emotional lows that can affect your ability to function. The emotional ups and downs are not as extreme as those in bipolar 1 or 2 disorder. Bipolar related to a medical condition. Because, of course, features symptoms that are the same as bipolar disorder, but they can be due to a medical condition. For example, Cushing's disease, multiple sclerosis, stroke, and traumatic brain injury can cause bipolar mania or hypomania. Bipolar related to the use of certain substances. Features symptoms that are the same as bipolar disorder, but they can be due to alcohol, street drugs, or medicine. So basically, you're drunk or you're high and you do stupid shit. That's what it is. Now, my idea of bipolar disorder is very similar to the way that borderline personality disorder features very unstable moods and actions and behaviors and things like that. It's just somebody who never got told no enough. They never learned how to self-regulate. They never learned how to recognize and deal with whatever emotion is going through their head. And because of that, they switch from one thing to another. And a lot of the time it will be external in some way, you know? It might even be in the same way that depressive people, they are focused on that outcome that they want. They want that thing or that person or that accomplishment or that whatever. And when they don't get it, you know, they may all of a sudden get really upset. Either that or, depending on the situation, it could be a place where somebody is reacting to something that you would expect them to be upset or happy about, you know. Now, one thing I will say with this is that lasts for at least 1 week, right? And then features constantly elevated moods called hypomanias that last at least 4 days and then 1 week. That is something that I'm not sure if they added that in or not, but when I was being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which again is not true, it's not real. Nobody ever mentioned anything about certain amounts of days and things like that. Nobody ever mentioned anything about, oh well, the number of days, the number of weeks, the number of whatever, you know. I don't know if that's a new development or not, but I am interested to learn more about why they say like what makes it at least 4 days and less than 1 week. Why is there that arbitrary amount of time, you know, especially for the bipolar 2 disorder? That one's a little bit, that one is a little bit strange. But again, I think it's a situation where somebody has no emotional control. They can't self-regulate, and because of that, they end up feeling a certain way for a certain amount of time, and then they come down from that high, or they stabilize from that low eventually, right? It's just their way of regulating. It's not actually, and it's an unhealthy way of regulating is really what it is. Man, my jaw keeps clicking. I don't know why. It's coming up out of nowhere. Do you think people in medieval Europe had any of these disorders? Nah, I don't think they had the time to. I think you were born, and if you were that low IQ, you were probably called an idiot. You were just the village idiot. That's what you were, you know. If you were high IQ, I don't know, maybe you were able to find work in a castle with somebody or something like that. Um, but overall, like it they didn't have this shit back then. It wasn't a thing. They had other quack ideas about the medical field, whether it was psychological or physical or something like that. They had other quack ideas, but this new version of quack ideas is not, it's not the same, you know. Um, I think that most of them, but certain disorders take different etiologies. Did you mean etymology? I'm not sure. Culturally, so no for those few disorders. Like persecutory delusions for in schizophrenia, for example. Excuse me. Um, like there was no FBI or CIA nor technology equivalent to the modern era, so a fantastic fixed delusion like the FBI is watching me through the flies on my wall simply could not occur. Um, how many did? How did they diagnose you with bipolar? I haven't seen a single symptom of you. Well, this is another piece, right? I said that and this is true of all of these things. I'll be honest with you. I mean, other than BPD, they tried to diagnose me with every single one of these. They tried to. It's not true, you know. Like I said, other than BPD, but like at the end of the day, what it comes down to with a lot of these things is that there's either some kind of trauma or there's something that is going on in the person's life or in their mind that makes them think that it is okay to act a certain way, you know? In my case, I grew up in an environment that was not healthy. I grew up with a mother who was an emotional terrorist. She was very manipulative. She was narcissistic. Um, I think she has a conscience, you know, not conscience. Well, yeah, conscience. She is able to empathize and things like that on a certain level, but she is not like you and me. And in addition to that, I was also shoved in a school system that was not built for anybody, but especially not men, especially not young boys. I was I just did not have a good upbringing. And because of that, I constantly had to fight. I had to fight off my mom, not physically, but mentally. I was always getting into arguments with her. I had to fight at school, sometimes physically, but usually it was like, again, some fucking quack teacher, some idiot who doesn't care about me, who just wants to have the easiest day that they can, and they're just reading out of a book that is full of fake shit. you know, and I happen to speak up, and now they're like, oh, well, we're going to have this guy tested, we're going to put him on pills and things like that. And then that's another thing. I was put on these medications that fucked with my head, they scrambled my brain. And because of that, I was not exactly stable in terms of my mood. Um, it's not an instability that I could not control. I knew what I was doing pretty much the entire time. I was aware of what was going on. And either one, I thought it was okay because I had some kind of justification, which is how everybody works. People will do the worst fucking things to each other, and they'll be like, "Well, I mean, he shouldn't have did this to me first. It's cool. He shouldn't have messed with me, and I wouldn't have stomped on his head." Like literally, that's like people use that kind of bullshit all the time, right? But then in addition to that, when I am trying to protect myself from my mother, I can't do that by being like, "Mother, I disagree." I have to be like, "Mom, fuck off." And because of that, because I'm telling this asshole, because I'm telling this piece of shit that they are a piece of shit, and I'm only like 11 years old, and they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., they have the power to drag me to a place that is going to give me that diagnosis in the first place. That's why I was diagnosed with all this stuff. And my mother tried to get me diagnosed with ADD because I would make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I wouldn't put the fucking peanut butter away. That's literally, she tried to get me diagnosed with this shit so that I could get Adderall so that I would finally put the peanut butter away. She wanted me to do meth because me leaving peanut butter out was it was that much of a pain in the ass. It's disgusting, dude. Fucking gross. You know? And that's why so many kids in the millennial generation ended up the way that we did. So many of us ended up on these pills and things like that is because we had adults, we had authority figures who they did not have our best interest at heart, even though they took jobs that required them to, even though they are our parents and things like that. And because of that, they brought us to places that validated them. They validated the parents instead of it being, hey, you know, I mean, I think your kid is just 8 years old and he's going to do things like that sometimes. And you just got to be there to be like, stop doing that until he actually stops doing it. And eventually he'll grow up and he'll be an upstanding person. You got to actually be a parent. Instead of telling them that, they say, oh, no, 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 no. It's not your fault and there's nothing you can do about it. Here, give me some money. I'll give you some pills and it'll shut him the fuck up and you won't have to deal with it. He's got bipolar disorder. You know, and again, not to trauma, like this is getting pretty close to just trauma dumping on you guys, but it's the most frustrating thing because the first 20 years of my life were a weird haze of like prescription drugs and hatred, people throwing hatred my way, and me just wanting to feel loved, me just wanting to feel like I belonged in the world, and having to constantly deal with like the next thing that somebody wanted out of me that they had no fucking right to even think about demanding out of me. And it sucks because like it's not just like I got kicked out of my parents' house and everything was better. I spent the last 10 years of my life trying to get back on track, closer to the last 8 years of my life, honestly. Just trying to get on a good track, trying to become the man that I was destined to be. But the thing is, I'll never become the man that I was destined to be. I can only become the man that I can become given the circumstances, and that is frustrating. It's pointless. It's useless to be frustrated like that, but it doesn't mean that it's not, you know? And then in addition to that, I think back to all these things that I did and said, people that I hurt, because I was fucked up, both because of the drugs, but then also because of maladaptive patterns that I picked up from people who were around me. And I think back to these people that I did harm to, not like physical harm. I never like hauled off on someone and hit them for no reason, but like, you know, girls that like I like followed around for years, like, please just go out with me, like that type of shit, and stuff that I would never under any circumstances do now. And like, that's not just because I'm a 30-year-old man who's married, but because like I understand, like, oh, that's ridiculous. I think back to that stuff and I just think that wasn't even fucking me. But it was. But it wasn't. But it's not like I'm gonna explain that to anybody. If I ran into any of those people today, like, even if they were cordial to me, I guarantee you they're gonna walk away and they're gonna tell their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their whoever they happen to be with when I bumped into him. Oh yeah, that guy was a fucking weirdo. Oh man, I'm so upset that I saw him. And it's like, you don't even know me though. You really don't even know me, who I am. You know a guy who was being abused. You you know a guy who is in an abusive household, an abusive school system, an abusive everything, and who is forced on these fucking medications, who was not allowed to have a sense of self, who was not allowed to be good at anything, you know? Anything I'm good at in spite of that. Anything that I've done in spite of that. And sure enough, when I take care of myself, that's when good things start happening for me. That's where my confidence comes from. That's why I that guy Nico, right? He shared a video from the last stream I did, right? He shared a video from the last stream I did where I was kind of calling out, like, Jet and Ben and the rest of production because I was a little upset. That wasn't me like trying to be like fuck them. That was just I was frustrated about something, and I was speaking publicly about it because everybody speaks publicly about it apparently. I've seen so many people from Frank Hassel to, like, I've seen Trish talk about shit that they're upset about and stuff like that. So it's like whatever. I've kept my mouth shut about frustrating things. I've been a team player. Fuck it, I'm gonna say something. And I did get my answer. But anyway. I see some of the comments and someone's like, where did this guy's ego get so big? It's like, it's not that my ego's big, it's that I have a self-belief. I know that when I'm able to take care of myself, good things happen. That's how I ended up here in the first place. That's how I met Aryeh in the first place. And the stuff that we did, you can ask him. Ask him. Like, I was a very trusted guy. I helped to make that organization what it was in a good way. In a good way. And I was somebody who these guys looked to as we didn't have leaders. I don't want to use the word leader necessarily, but I was a leader in that conceptual sense where when I spoke, people were like, "Oh, hey, yeah. I learned very quickly, right? I do very good things for myself. Good things happen for me when I take care of myself, but I was not allowed to do that, you know? And that's why I'm so confident is because I've seen what happens when I'm just left to my own devices to do what, like, I want to do. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, like I said, that was kind of trauma dumping there. I apologize for the trauma dumping, but it is a frustrating thing that weighs heavy on me, especially again now that I'm a 30-year-old man and I'm looking at my life and I'm like, damn, I like how I spent my 20s, but it would have been nice if I didn't have to dig myself out of a hole so that maybe I could be a homeowner right now. You know, I could be, you heard it here, guys. I could be a homeowner. But like it's been weighing heavy on me lately because I'm 30, my wife is 30 as well, and we're not getting any younger and we don't have fucking kids yet. But anyway, narcissists are extraordinary creatures. Yes indeed they are. The Greeks thought moods and inclinations and urges were the different gods acting through their bodies. That's interesting. I never knew that. Back then, persecutory hallucinations would have probably taken the shape of whatever gods they worshipped or other mythical beings. That makes sense too. That makes sense too. Spunkled. But anyway, we're gonna look at ADD, attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Excuse me. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also called ADHD, is a long term condition that affects millions of children. It often continues into adulthood. ADHD includes a mix of ongoing problems. These can include having a hard time paying attention, being hyperactive, and being impulsive. Children with ADHD also may have low self esteem and troubled relationships and do poorly in school. Excuse me. Gee, what a surprise. Fucking the people who can't sit still and have issues with impulsivity and hyperactivity and things like that. They're not going to have tons of friends all the time. Gee, what a surprise. But anyway, symptoms sometimes lessen with age. They always lessen with age, because to be an adult who is that way is like gross. But anyway, you outgrow it. Symptoms sometimes lessen with age. Some people never completely outgrow their ADHD symptoms, but they can learn strategies to be successful. While treatment won't cure ADHD, it can help a great deal with symptoms. Besides giving education about ADHD treatment, can involve. Wait, sorry, excuse me. Jeez. Besides giving education about ADHD, treatment can also involve medicines and behavior therapies. Early diagnosis and treatment can make a big difference in results. And whenever you see something like this, right, early diagnosis and treatment can make a big difference. That's kind of a tell right there that it is simply a learned behavior that you're trying to force a child to unlearn, right? It's like ADD and ADHD, like it's the boomer kind of idea. The boomer way of looking at it is just like, back in my day, we'd get our asses beat. Hey, our parents would smack us around. I'd get hit with the belt. That was my Adderall back then. Is getting hit with the belt. Like, it's such a boomer way of looking at it, but this is one of those times where boomers were kind of correct. I'm not saying you should hit your kids. You know, you should. That's not good. But the idea that, like, no nonsense, like, no, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna shut up, and I better not see you move. That kind of attitude towards that is the cure. Having them on fucking medications that are just gonna fry their nerve endings, having them on medical grade methamphetamine, fucking forget about it. You know. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and again, this is also something else that I've seen. Like, I don't know if this kid had ADD or ADHD specifically, but like there was another kid who literally all I had to do is just keep telling him to sit still. That's it. And he got a little bit better. Not completely better, but it's like I said, a lot of the time it's because I only have an hour with these kids and they're going to go home to their parents who let them get away with whatever the fuck they want. And because of that, they know where their bread is buttered. So when it's time to come to jujitsu, they're going to be like, oh man, I can't mess around with Coach Scott. When he tells me to sit still, I better sit still. But when it comes to going home, they're like, yeah, you know, dad's a pussy. Dad's a fucking pussy. Fuck that guy. I'm gonna fucking throw this ball through the window. You know, that's literally the type of shit that happens. And it's not even, again, it's not even like I have to be like South Park, like, sit down and study. Like, I don't even have to do that. It's literally just sit still. Hey, sit still. You gotta sit still. No, 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 no. Stop moving. Sit still. Sit still. You gotta sit still. Pay attention. Sit still. Literally, all you have to do is that. Just keep on telling them, and they will pay attention. And it's one thing if they're being an absolute little shit. In that case, you have to remove them in one way or another. Whether it's literally like, hey, like, you can't come here anymore, or if it's all right, you're gonna go sit against the wall. Sit still against the wall. Oh, you're not sitting still against the wall. Okay, I'm gonna go talk to your mom. Your mom's gonna pull you out of the class now. You know, like, we just don't enforce discipline anymore. We don't enforce anything. We instead try to put band-aids on bullet holes. All you have to do is tell these kids, no, that's not cool. And they'll stop eventually. It's not going to be a one-time thing. But if you show them the respect to be able to just speak to them, even if you have to speak to them from a position of authority, if you're just direct with them, if you say it with your chest, you know, they're going to listen 9 times out of 10, and they're going to improve. And it's going to be all good. You know, I have to have conversations with kids sometimes. I have to every now and again I have to tell the whole class, and sometimes I have to pull a kid aside and I have to be like, look, when I open my mouth, you don't open your mouth. All right? When I tell you, hey, stop that, I don't want to hear, but I wasn't doing it. It was he was doing this and blah 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. Right? That's something that I'm working on with a couple of kids in my class. And some of them are getting it, some of them they need a little bit more work, right? But the bottom line is like a lot of kids, if you just let them do whatever they want, they're gonna learn that they can do whatever they want. And they're gonna unfortunately be incapable of settling down and doing whatever it is they need to do when the time comes. It's a matter of discipline, you know. Kids have a natural good evil barometer. I don't know what you mean by that, Baja Candle. I'm curious what you mean by that, Baja. Um, I like the trauma dumps. LOL. It's cool seeing you come to terms with everything. Some people never do this work. End up fucking destroying their kids' lives. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm definitely not going to be a perfect dad. I'm going to do and say things that are not good. You know, like even with my wife, like I do and say things with my wife sometimes that it's like I got to think about it later, and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. You know, like nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to do things that are like not good. You know, um, just kidding. I'm the best ever. Right, baby? Silence. The silence is deafening. Oof. No, but jokes aside, like I'm gonna do bad things. I'm gonna do things the wrong way every now and again, but I just want to make sure that I don't do the same things to my kids because I really, really had so much fucking potential, you know, specifically with baseball, you know. I really think I could have been drafted, if I'm being honest with you. I was that good, specifically as a third and first baseman. You know, third base particularly. I like you could have put me anywhere, and I would have been good at it. You know, but just seeing the potential that I had that was wasted not because I was lazy, but because everything was just fucked. I don't want to do that to my kid. I don't want to push my kid either and be like, "You're gonna fucking be a baseball player." No, 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 no. I don't want to do that either. Because that's what my dad did to me. That's what my dad did. My dad was the opposite end of that spectrum, where he was screaming at me about how I suck because like I didn't get a hit. You know, I could go 3 for 4 at bat in a game, and he would be like, "You want to know what you did wrong on that fourth at bat?" That's literally like that's the way that he was, you know. Never a good job, only ever you could have did better, you know, and only ever a you suck. It was really stupid, you know. Funny, he never did that with boxing or anything like that. You know, when it came to boxing and combat sports, he didn't really push me like that. You know, I think he probably didn't want me to learn how to beat his ass. That's probably it. But either way, you know. Um again, not trying to trauma dump. I'm just kind of explaining my thought process, you know. And again, this is part of the reason why I feel the way that I do about myself and the way that I talk about myself, because like when do you ever hear anybody talking about like what they went through and the way that I am now? I don't hear people intellectualizing what they went through in the way that I do. I don't think most people have the ability to do that. You know, if I'm being honest with you, I think most people, when they go through the things that I went through, they have a tendency to just like get into drugs and stuff like that. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. There's plenty of people like me out there, but not nearly enough, you know? And like that's why we have a heroin epidemic, you know, other than people getting hurt and they got prescribed fucking Vicodin, you know, oxys. And now they're addicted. Like that's why there's a fent epidemic and things like that, you know? That's why a lot of people are just like fucked up. They're just shitty. You know, even if they're not like doing drugs, they're just fucking shitty, dude. How many shitty people do you know? And like they'll tell you all about the time their dad called them like a pussy or something like that, and they'll like steal money from you or something like that. You know, it's fucked up, man, you know. Um Most people never introspect because it hurts to think about their own shortcomings. Oh yeah, you know, they can't intellectualize it. You know, like it hurts, don't get me wrong, but I'm able to think about it on a level where it's like it doesn't hurt. You know, I can think about it and just be like, okay, this is what happened. This is probably why it happened. This is what it caused me to do after the fact. I gotta like try not to do that to my kids. You know, it's that simple. You know, you should go through Reddit and read about people with similar experiences. You may be surprised or find it helpful. Yeah, maybe, maybe. Anyway, what? Oh no, I said maybe, not baby. Yeah. Fucking, fucking idiot. Baby, I love you. Sure, sure. Um, kids detecting people without words and expression only. Oh yeah, you know, like the kids that I teach open up to me pretty quickly. And I mean, like it's because of familiarity partially, but like the parents, some of the parents are intimidated by me, and it's because I am not like a hey kids. Hey, how many of us had a good day at school today? That's not my personality. I'm stoic even with the children. You know, I show them a modicum of respect. I show them a modicum of respect that I believe is due to any human being. I will say things straight to them. I won't be like, "Hey," I won't be a fucking Teletubby person about it, you know? And I'm able to joke and laugh with these kids. I'm able to have a good time with them, you know? Like it's not all fucking like that, you know? And the kids like me, you know, like they want to talk to me, you know, like I love walking in and they're like, Coach Scott, you know, or like something like that. It melts the heart, you know, it feels really nice to have that kind of, you know, to have that kind of an effect, you know, on the lives of other people, especially young kids like that, you know, helping them to grow and be the best people that they can be. But like the parents, some of them are real cool with me. I'm real cool with them, but other ones you can tell they're like, they're like they're afraid. You know, it happened the other day. Like I make eye contact with one of them walking in. I've been teaching her, excuse me, her son for like a year and a half at this point, you know? And like we make eye contact and I nod, I'm like, what's up? And she just kind of looks that way. And then I got to the door first, so I open it up and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And then she finally is like, oh, I'm good. How are you? You know, like one of those things. It's like, night, just James. Night, Natalia. Yeah, I'm gonna head out of here soon too. You know, we got 7 minutes. We got 7 minutes. I'll stick around for the 7 minutes until the 2 hour mark, and then I gotta do my thing to get to bed. Metacognition is a rare trait. That's a big word, Zach. That's a big word. I don't. No, I'm sure I understand what it means. You know, um, metacognition. Meta is to go beyond, and then cognition is to think. You know, so like to think beyond. But anyway, so you compartmentalize things easy, but it seems like you're beginning to grieve what you lost. 100%. Oh yeah, I grieve what I lost all the time. You know. Excuse me. I don't allow that grieving to affect my decisions now. You know, if anything, it puts me in a situation where I think, man, I have to make it work now. You know, I have to make sure that everything I do is going to be conducive to kids and a house and a life where I can raise my kids, where I don't have to work constantly and come home angry. Because if I'm being honest with you, I can understand why my dad was stressed out all the time. You know, it fucking sucked having to do what he did, you know, driving trucks, having to deal with assholes all day, all this other shit. You know, that shit's no fun, man. That shit's definitely no fun, you know. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so the reason why I picked these specifically is because these are the most like BPD, autism, just mood disorders like bipolar and depression, and then ADD, right? These disorders, these sicknesses, or these whatever you would call them, They are the most commonly utilized, or they're just the most common disorders of that type that you will see. At least cover NPD. All right, I'll check that out. I'll check that out. They're the most common NPD. Am I gonna get called racist for this? NPD? Nah. Jokes aside. It says page not found. What's NPD stand for, Zach? What's NPD's? Oh, is it narcissistic personality disorder? Is that what it is? Is it let me know if it's narcissistic personality disorder, Zachary. I am curious, but I picked those because they are the most. Okay, all right. So yeah, in that case, I'm sure that's your narcissism. Oh, I spelled fucking narcissism wrong, like an idiot, but it's also not there. I don't believe. I'm really smart, guys. I know how to spell narcissism. So I have a feeling the reason why narcissism is not there is because it probably falls under antisocial personality disorder. I would guess. I would guess anyway. But I'm gonna NPD. I want to see what happens. Yeah, fucking narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, here it is. So the reason I picked these though is because they are the most common disorders that you'll see in people, and they have the easiest to understand causes. They have the easiest explanations to them that do not concern there being some weird chemical imbalance in your brain or anything like that, you know? Anyway, overview. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and want people to... Baby, listen to this. Are you listening? Are you? Are you? No, I said listen to this and you didn't say anything, so I want to yeah. All right. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others, but behind this mask of extreme confidence, they are not sure of their self worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism. A narcissistic personality disorder causes problems in many areas of life, such as relationships, work, school, or financial matters. People with narcissistic personality disorder may be generally unhappy and disappointed when they're not given the special favors or admiration that they believe they deserve. They may find their relationships troubled and unfulfilling, and other people may not enjoy being around them. Treatment for narcissistic personality disorder centers around talk therapy, also called psychotherapy. Narcissistic personality disorder affects more males than females, and it often begins in the teens or early adulthood. Some children may show traits of narcissism, but this is often typical for their age and doesn't mean they'll go on to develop narcissistic personality disorder. Sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like somebody we know, doesn't it? Yes. Do you want to hear the symptoms? Okay. Symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder and how severe they are can vary. People with the disorder can have an unreasonably high sense of self-importance and require constant, excessive admiration, feel they deserve privileges and special treatment, expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements, make achievements and talents seem bigger than they are, be preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate, believe they are superior to others and can only spend time with or be understood by equally special people. Be critical of and look down on people they feel are not important. Expect special favors and expect other people to do what they want without questioning them. Take advantage of others to get what they want. Have an inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. Be envious of others and believe others envy them. Behave in an arrogant way, brag a lot, and come across as conceited. insist on having the best of everything. For instance, the best car or best office. And then there's like 7 or 8 more. At the same time, people with narcissistic personality disorder have trouble handling anything they view as criticism. They can become impatient or angry when they don't receive special recognition or treatment, have major problems interacting with others and easily feel slighted, react with rage or contempt, and try and belittle other people to make themselves appear superior. Have difficulty managing their emotions and behavior, experience major problems dealing with stress and adapting to change, withdraw from or avoid situations in which they might fail, feel depressed and moody because they fall short of perfection, have secret feelings of insecurity, shame, humiliation, and fear of being exposed as a failure. Again, sounds very similar to somebody that I know. And then there's covert and overt narcissism. Oh yeah, yeah. The problem with this disorder is it has become grossly misapplied from armchair psychologists. Yes, and as somebody who, like I said, I believe I know somebody with either this or they have some kind of offshoot or something that is closely related to this. I am very careful. I'm very careful about applying the term narcissism or sociopath to somebody because I know that it's real easy whenever someone cuts you off in traffic to be like fucking narcissist, fucking sociopath. Whenever you ask somebody for like $1 to borrow $1 and they're like, nah man, sorry, no, you're like, dude, fucking narcissist. Like TikTok women have ruined the term narcissist. And it is really dangerous because now whenever you hear it, you think of those TikTok women who just got told no once. For once in their life, they got told no, and because of that, they're calling each other narcissists and things like that. It's actually really easy to spot somebody who is like this once you know somebody who is already like that because it's a lot of these people, they fall so snugly into this. And I think this is probably a little bit different than something like this, right? Because of the way that these people operate. They simply cannot understand. If you explain something to them, they will not get it. They do not have something in there that allows them to empathize and other things like that. And I'm pretty sure you can even see a difference in the brain of a sociopath or a psychopath and a regular person, right? And I would assume maybe a narcissist is kind of similar, but I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong about that. But it can be a pain in the ass because sometimes you don't realize that about somebody, especially if you're an agreeable person. That's where I ended up. Like I said, I was a very agreeable person, and because of that, it made it very easy for people like this to take advantage of me. And I had to dig myself out of that hole in addition to digging myself out of all the other holes that I found myself in. Excuse me. Yo, what's going on, iPhone meat? A real narcissist person will never ever change. Yes, exactly, just James. And that's why you're best off not dealing with one of those people. But if you have to deal with them for whatever reason, it's best to learn what makes them tick. And when you figure that out, it's real easy to avoid getting burned by them. And it's also real easy to get what you want out of them. You can manipulate the manipulator. Because these manipulators, these narcissists, they have such low frequency wants and needs. It's so easy to get under their skin and so easy to get into their head that you just have to say the right thing and you're getting them to do what you want, And that's not me saying like be a puppet master in these kinds of situations. That's not even what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like get into their head and put the idea to turn around and fuck off into their head. It's like be in Pong where the ball goes boop. Be the paddle in Pong where like it starts coming over to your side and you're like, oh fuck, boop. Get them to fuck off as quickly and as far away as possible. Learn how to do that. you know. Learn how to appease them when appeasing them is a good idea. Learn how to sway them away from that stupid thing they want to fucking do, you know? But yeah. And if you're in your 20s, find out if you're a codependent personality, you will be automatically attracted to these kinds of people. Yep. There are modern methods currently with good results, but most will never seek treatment. Yeah, I'm not sure, you know. Joe Buttslasher says, "I am a mental illness. I am. I am the ill." Oh man. But this is interesting. I didn't know NPD was a thing. You know, I knew what a narcissist is, a clinical narcissist is, but I didn't know that it was specifically called this. Excuse me. That is good info. That is good info. I appreciate that, Zach. But I think it is about time for me to hit that dusty trail. All right, I am going to head on out. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate that. I'm thinking about doing a 24-hour stream. The issue is I would have to do it on YouTube. I got the answer from Mints, who apparently talked to Jet and Ben and stuff like that. They don't want anybody who's affiliated with production streaming on the site. Why? I don't know. Could that be a bullshit answer? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to force the issue. I got my answer. All right. That's all I wanted was for them to be like, yeah or nah. Fuck him. But regardless, I'm not going to be streaming on the Fish Tank site. That is official. It's a pain in the ass, but I would like to do a 24-hour stream at some point. The issue I have is that I need something to fill the time with. Because part of the 24-hour streams for me is listening to music with you guys and doing other fun stuff like watching stuff on the Fish Tank site, you know? I have to find something to fill that void so that I don't get into some kind of trouble. I think Twitch is a little bit better. If Twitch or Kick is a little bit better, maybe it'll be a 24-hour stream on one of those. But I really want YouTube because that's where everybody watches me. That's where everybody watches me, you know? Regardless. I will be on the site soon, though. But because I'm going to be streaming with Aria. And of course, it's just in time, right? It's just in time for Mince or somebody else to assume that because I got told no, I asked Aria to stream. When the reality is Aria asked me if I wanted to stream, and I was like, hell yeah. And he said, oh yeah, like, we should stream on the Fish Tank site. I asked Mince, and it's cool. He said it's all right for you to come on. You know? So of course now everyone's gonna think that I was like, they won't let me stream, huh? That's fine. I'm gonna go on Aria's stream then, when that's not what it was. I know I'm gonna get accused of that, you know. But I will be streaming with Aria soon. We gotta put it together, figure out exactly when that's gonna happen. And I want to think about 24-hour stream ideas. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know, and I will be greatly appreciative. You know. Oh no, not Aria. Hey, me and Aria go way back. Twitch, if you use the channel point system well, can pad content. What's channel points? I don't know what channel points is. And dress up as your Blood Games character and stay in character and react. That was cool at the end of every clip. That's a good idea. Just James and Joe Buttslasher. That is a good idea. Man. Jeez. I'm waiting for iPhone Meet to explain what the channel point. Yeah, I can just look that up on my own. I gotta get out of here. Thank you. Oh, digital currency. Oh, okay. So what? Instead of giving money directly to somebody on Twitch, you gift like digital currency or something like that. I would assume that's what it is. You know. There it is. I'm gonna dye my hair at some point too. I'm gonna wait for a time where I have time off from work, I mean like real time off, like a week off from work or something like that for a holiday. And we're gonna do a stream where if you reach a certain goal, I will dye my hair on camera. I'll dye it black because that's about the only thing I could do is black hair. You know, I'm sure my wife would be thrilled about that, but it will happen. I will do it. On Twitch, you earn. I'm just gonna call that P for watching the stream. Twitch allows you to use P for all kinds of things like since iPhone Meet happens to be in the middle of the explanation, betting on events or making the streamer do shit like dance. I see. Definitely ain't gonna dance. Bleach it and go blue. I don't even think I could bleach it. I dyed my hair once in high school. It was black hair because I was a redhead and everybody else did blonde. There was 2 redheads on the team. I was one of them. It was for wrestling. We had to do black hair because apparently if we bleached our hair, it simply would not have worked. That's what I was told, but I don't know. But anyway, um, yeah, I think it's about time I get out of here. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. All right. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later, specifically Friday. All right. Peace out.